Hello everyone and welcome back to the Everton Heritage Show, brought to you by members of the official Everton FC Heritage Society. And what a location we've got, eh? What a day. You join me on a day when Everton women are about to make history and become the very first women to ever play here at this magnificent new stadium as they face off against Manchester United in a game that will probably be quite tough, fitting opponents for a very big occasion. And before the game today, I went up to the Terrace Bar. Really nice view of the stadium, and I was joined by Paul Owens, author of the Glovesman of Goodison, a new book that is well worth a read. We're going to go through a few of Everton's greatest goalies. And I was also joined by Alan Kelly as well, who is probably best known for being Jordan Pickford's goalkeeper coach at Everton, a man responsible for quite a prolific career of England's #1. So without further ado, enjoy the show.
Marching down the Goodison Road.
One of Britain's greatest footballers.
Shot! What a fantastic goal! And the Evertonians have gone berserk. And he's got it! Oh, yes, he's got it!
One Evertonian is worth 20 Liverpudlians.
Oh, it's great stuff by Everton.
Heritage.
Welcome everyone to the Everton Heritage Show. You join me on the roof of the Terrace Bar next door to the BlueHouse and opposite the Hill Dickinson Stadium on the day that Everton women and Manchester United women become the first ever women to play here at the stadium. And joining me to my right, the former Everton goalkeeping coach, Mr. Alan Kelly, and author of the new book, The Glovesmen of Goodison, Paul Owens. Thanks very much for being here with us, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
I was wondering about where to begin our chat today. And I think a good place as any is to ask you both, is it a necessity to be mad to be a goalkeeper?
Why are you looking at me?
I'm trying to look between the pair of you.
I actually don't think it is, because I think as a goalkeeper, you've got to work out so many things. You've got to deal with the pressure being the last line defence, and you've got all these decisions you have to make in a split second. So I think if you're mad, you're not able to make those decisions. So I'll stick up for the goalkeeping union and say we're quite considerate, we're calm, we do our job to the best of our ability, and we're as sane as the next person.
You get the rough end of the deal, kind of.
I think so, yeah.
Alan, you've played for Preston North End, Sheffield United, Blackburn Rovers. I was interested to read that when you were playing at Preston, you actually turned out for Everton as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah, it was. My dad obviously was goalkeeping coach here, one of the first goalkeeping coaches, full-time goalkeeping coaches for Everton under Howard Kendall, looking after Bobby Mims and Neville Southall at the time. And I think they'd had an injury crisis. I'd just started at Preston. Again, the context, it was the mid-'80s. It's not football as you see it now. There was no money. It was a place where people did favours. You could pick the phone up, and that's what happened with me. I got a call. Actually, fortunately, my mother answered, because I'm not sure my dad would have done something about it. Said, "Alan's not bad. Why don't you take him?" And it was Ray Hall, I think it was. It was on the phone, and ended up in Italy in a tournament playing against AC Milan in my first game live on TV. I had the NEC Everton goalkeeping top. Kept a clean sheet, did all right, really enjoyed it, and played in front of Eddie Yards and a few players that had played for Everton further on in their career. So incredible experience, over a week, and something that I always look back, with great affection.
I'm sure, yeah. And so obviously the connection there being kind of Neville Southall, obviously your dad coaching him. Paul, of course, you kind of credit your own affinity to goalkeepers to Neville as well. And I'm sorry to make you follow Alan in this, but I believe you've had something of a goalkeeping career yourself.
Yeah, not to this level, certainly not. But yeah, as a kid, I was just absolutely obsessed with goalkeeping. I think the reason I support Everton so passionately is because of Neville Southall, and I wanted to be a goalkeeper. I wanted to play for Everton. I wanted to be Neville Southall, and Yeah, I did all right. Did all right. Had a few trials at a few clubs and whatnot, but just looked up to Neville so much, and basically wasted my childhood trying to imitate the inimitable, really. But yeah, I did okay. I did okay. Thank you.
Very nice. Well, I've read that you also a lot of some of the things that drew you to goalkeeping were things like the kits and the gloves. Any favourites?
100%. Yeah. Neville's zigzag kind of silver grey and green one from the late 80s was a personal favourite, and literally felt like all of my Christmases had come at once, not just the Christmas of 89 when I did get it. And I really liked the black kit that he wore, and the reason I like that one is that it just showed just how much devil in the detail there was with his goalkeeping, because he wore the black kit because he felt as though he kind of blended into the crowd behind his goal, so that if a striker was bearing through on goal, he kind of lost sight of where he was for a split second, and that'd give him that extra bit of time to narrow down the angle or pounce on that ball. So I just think that shows just how much detail and how much kind of care had gone into his preparation and his way of thinking. And the glove bag as well. I used to write to Neville when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, and every single time he would write back. Still got all the handwritten replies now, and I sent him one letter and I was like, what's in your bag? What's in your bag? And he was like, oh, lots of gloves, tape. And I remember sending a second letter going, what do you use the tape for? And it's like, if his shin pads or if his straps on his gloves had gone. But then kind of, I don't know, early 90s, I was watching loads of Everton games and I was thinking, he's not got his bag. He's not got his bag with him anymore. Or when he did have it, he'd always have it like 2 yards to the side of the goal. So not in the net as it had been before. And then I remember reading a few years after that, and he felt as though that gave the strikers a target. It gave them something to aim at. So not taking my bag out anymore. Or if I do, then if they want to shoot 2-3 yards outside the goal, then that's fine.
Can I add in there? I used to have a bag. All goalkeepers had bags in. It was an old sport one like the one you brought today.
Yeah.
But I lost that many because at the end of the game, especially away from home, I'd forgot my bag. So by the time I'd gone out, it had gone missing. So I lost a pair of gloves. I'd lost whatever was in there, my holy water, whatever it may be.
Fantastic.
And I must have lost about six gloves by, so I decided it wasn't for me. It's costing me too much money.
I saw one recently about, well, I think a lot of goalkeepers these days put the notes on the water bottles as well for the penalties. Was that anything you used to do?
No. You look these days, obviously, notably with the water, I think we were one of the first to do it with Jordan. I'm going back to when he saved a penalty in 2017 at home. We were doing it then. But I had handwriting it onto the bottle, sticking it on with sellotape and what have you. And but back in my day, no, you didn't. You sort of just worked it out. I remember facing a penalty from Andy King. I actually saved it. My first penalty I saved in pro football. And you just go on instinct. You go on the cues that he's going to give you, or basically it can be a guess. You just get a feeling for it. And yeah, that was I think that was my fourth game in pro football at Deepdale. Andy King steps up and hits you to the right side and made the save, and you're on your way.
Is that more rewarding to guess in the moment, or do you think it's more rewarding to do your own work?
Well, after the event, you can say, yeah, I just saw him move to the left or move to the right, but invariably, you've made your mind up. The only things, but then with experience and obviously through coaching, you're saying, well, what's the speed of his run up? Is he waiting for you to move? Position wise, are you touching the crossbar? All these little nuances come into that you might do to one, put off the opposition taking a penalty, but two, look at history. Did they have a pattern? Did they go two to the left and the next two are to the right? All these things come into it with the data and everything that's covered now in football, and you can get anything you want from it.
So, Paul, in terms of the book itself, The Glovesmen of Goodison, a history of Everton's goalkeepers, it's a wonderfully researched book. It's so meticulous. It's very much an entire history, isn't it, of goalkeepers that have played at Goodison Park, at least. Why did you feel like now was the time to write it?
Yeah, really good question. I think with Goodison closing recently, it just felt like the perfect time to tell the story, the story of Everton's goalkeepers. I mean, writing a book about Everton's keepers was something that I've always wanted to do. Like, 10, 15, 20 years. I didn't know what it would look like. I wanted to pay tribute to Neville. Like, Neville's played like a huge part in my life. I wanted to pay tribute to Jordan because I think he's incredible and he doesn't get anywhere near the credit that he deserves. When I was growing up, I'd be reading loads of books about Everton's history. I'd be watching the old VHSs, and there'd be loads on Dixie Dean, rightly so. There'd be loads on the Holy Trinity, Kendall Ball, Harvey, but not that much on Gordon West, incredible keeper from the 60s and 70s. Ted Sagar, Dixie Dean scoring all the goals, but Ted Sagar played for Everton for 24 years. So I wanted there to be lots of information out there on the keepers. So I knew that I wanted to cover them, and then your mind starts racing. You think, can I make it bigger? Can I make it better? Can I tell the history of Everton through its keepers, through the highs and lows of the keepers? Can I research and include something on every single keeper to have played for the club? And then even bigger, can I include all the stats for all the nerds and all the geeks out there? So it's like a definitive guide, and wanted to include the women as well, because women's football, I'm sure we'll get onto that in a bit, but women's football has always been a huge part in my life as well. So yeah, I wanted to pay tribute to Neville, to Jordan, to Gordon West, to Ted Sagar, and then you just start thinking bigger and better than that. And Nigel Martin, people like that, they all, their stories need to be told as well.
Yeah. And I bet it came quite naturally to you, to be honest. This sounds it's a fantastic book. And you mentioned Jordan there being an inspiration, so it'd be remiss of me not to mention a very significant feather in your cap, Alan, which is, of course, being Jordan Pickford's goalkeeping coach here at Everton since 2017. I believe it was Unsworth that brought you to the club. Can you just tell us a bit about that journey?
Yeah, it was, as all my journeys are, there's always a story to it. And I was sat in the Guinness Hop House with my family over in Ireland, just enjoying a nice pint of Guinness, and the phone went, and it was David Unsworth. What are you doing? I said, well, and when I told him, he said, right, he said, would you like to, come and be goalkeeping coach at Everton? And I said, when do you want me? He said, tomorrow morning. So I got the last plane out. I finished the pint. I left the family behind, which always seems to happen in football, and jumped on the plane. And then 8 o'clock the next morning, I was at Finch Farm, and first person I actually bumped in was Wayne Rooney. There's the picture of me shaking hands with Wayne Rooney onto the thing, and it was sort of like a whirlwind introduction. And then, fortunately, I'd been Jordan's goalkeeping coach at Preston North End for 25 games. His last sort of time that he'd gone out on loan, really, to prove, as it subsequently proved to be David Moyes, to give him the chance to play in the Premier League for Sunderland. He did that, and then the rest is history. So, yeah, really, really a whirlwind experience. Got a lot to thank David Unsworth for, because one, for the belief in that you can make a difference. Two, to come to Everton and work for a club, and three, following the footsteps of my dad, who had been a goalkeeping coach in the middle 80s. So all those sort of facets that come together, at one time, they align, and 7-8 years later, when I left, I can look back at that with a lot of love, affection, and pride.
I've no doubt. I mean, as you say, with him being an inspiration to you for the book, I mean, I've always wondered why he gets so much criticism. I think, we're filming this in the month where he's just broken another record for England. I believe it's eight clean sheets on the bounce now. But there's so many more records. So just give us an idea of how far he's come.
Do you want to go first? Is your man?
I'll just say, I put a tweet out the other day saying since 2017 he's made more Premier League appearances than any other Premier League footballer.
Any player, not just goalkeepers, any player?
Not goalkeepers, yes. Wow. I think it's 329, I think it is.
Yeah.
So that level of consistency, that level of performance, that level of availability, and then you add on to that 79 England caps, you suddenly get into over 400 games since 2017. Not only that, I mean, again, people say I'm biased, but his level of performance when it was needed most, when Everton were really in trouble, when we were in trouble at the bottom end of the table. I mean, I remember being 5 points adrift at the bottom, and we needed performances. And I remember his game at Leicester, at Man United at home, the 1-0, the last save from Ronaldo, the Chelsea save, they got saved this season. There's so many instances where I think the Goodison faithful who were there and people who were watching on the TV, whether Match of the Day or live, whatever, will look back. And I think in history, you know, Neville is an Everton legend, bona fide Everton, 751 games, something like that. Jordan's, you know, now getting on 350, but in an era where one slip, one mistake, one error in that time could have resulted in Everton losing their status, you know, in the top division. The pressure to deal with that, and then everything that's outside of that, as you said, you know, the stick he gets. I've never known a goalkeeper take as much stick, but his level of performance, his consistency, and the way he trains, which people don't see, is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I personally think he's. You mentioned the sheer quantity of games he's played, and I would comfortably say that I'm confident in him making one save every game where you think, at least one every game where you think he had no right to save that.
The one from Chelsea, the one against Chelsea in 2022 was just an outstanding piece of goalkeeping. But the week later, it was Leicester away, wasn't it? Leicester away the week later, and for me, he was even better in that game. Three or four saves in that game, which was
the penalty as well.
No, it was the season after. But that's what I mean. There's so many different, and the season with the penalty save at Leicester as well. Played Brighton. I think we beat Brighton 5-1, which sounds as though we've battered them. He's made about 7 or 8 saves in that game. It's absolutely superb. Yeah. But you know, people don't talk about that, and that's the reason I wanted to flag it all up in the book. That the Chelsea one gets a lot of you know, people know about the Chelsea one, and rightly so, because it was such an incredible save. But that wasn't a one-off. He's done that consistently for such a long period of time. And from the beginning, even when he first came as well, he, you know, a little bit old to be having like goalkeeping heroes now. But when he rocked up as a 22, 23-year-old, I thought, I really like this kid. I think he seems really different from.
He won Player of the Year the first year, didn't he?
Sorry,
he won Player of the Year.
Yeah,
the first
he
year.
did. Yeah,
I think he swept the ball in.
He did. Yeah,
he won.
Yeah, won all the awards that year. But I remember the first month or so that he was with us, I was thinking, wow. He's brilliant now. What could he become? Yeah. So yeah,
I remember thinking personally. Obviously, as you say, he was so young when he signed, and in that from that Sunderland team that were a relegation team basically. So obviously he got to face a lot of shots, and it was about just under £30 million we paid for him at the time, and a few people were questioning that. And the way I thought about it at the time, when you consider the Everton greats. Having so many games and playing for us for so many years, of course you mentioned Ted Sagar for like over 2 decades. You think £30 million over 10 years. Yeah. If someone said to you now, you pay £3 million a year to have the best goalkeeper, arguably, that England's ever had, you'd bite their hand off, wouldn't you? You know. I
think you would. Not only that, but again, as I say, go to think about the priceless saves that he's made at the critical times. And what's that done? Not only for the team, but for the fans as well. I mean, look at the Crystal Palace game. You know, we were 2-0 down at half time, and the save in the second half, the save against Bournemouth. You know, when we win 1-0. And again, these are all. There's good times ahead, and we'll look over my shoulder. And this is, you know, the turn of something that's going to take Everton into bigger and better things. Yeah. But sometimes when you've got to do the hard yards, where you've got to dig deep, where you've got to find something that look, you know, on the face of it looks like you're going to collapse and you're going to get relegated, you know, to put yourself forward and say, no, I'm going to lead a team, I'm going to lead a set of fans through this. You know, 1, it's courage, 2, it's dealing with pressure, and 3, it's a sign of a great goalkeeper.
Absolutely. To be honest with you, I could more than happily sit here and talk about Jordan Pickford for hours, days, weeks.
The last thing
we're here for this.
The last thing I'd say about him is that I genuinely believe that with any other goalkeeper we'd have gone down, and that's partly because of his incredible ability, but also I just think he's got that real mental toughness, that real mental resilience that enables him to perform the way that he does under all of that pressure. You think of all the nonsense that he's had thrown his way. I think any other goalkeeper would have just crumbled in those situations. And there's an argument that we can thank him for that place, because
100%.
If we'd have gone down and had that to pay for.
Yeah, exactly.
Might be a very
wouldn't have been
different
finished as well. You know, you think about the financial state of the club at the time.
Yeah. He's that important. He's been that big part that bigger part of our history.
He's a modern day Everton legend.
Yeah, he is definitely.
So the book itself, aside from the first chapter, which is of course on Jordan Pickford, aside from that, it's basically chronological, isn't it? So without wanting to list every single good goalkeeper from the beginning, if we pick out a couple from the very start, called George Bargery is one that you mentioned, was the first professional goalkeeper for Everton. There was loads of names back then, wasn't there? Absolutely, like the list in the appendix at that stage is extraordinary. So I'd like to just mention a couple of those, but particularly as we go into the 20th century, there's one name that really stands out for me, and that's Richmond Roose.
Is that because you live near where he was
You've
from?
done your research, yeah. He's a neighbour of mine. A century ago. But yeah, do you know the story, Alan?
I've read the book.
Yeah,
I've read the book. Yeah, even before Paul, even years ago. Actually, it's one of the groundsmen at Finch Farm said, "Do you want to have a read of this one?" Robbie Gillespie gave me the book, and what a fantastic rig, and just an insight into, you talk about exuberant characters, and you talk about, at a time when the goalkeeper could take the ball all the way to the halfway line, and in some ways it's sort of, you see notes of how he played the game to how the game's played now, in what it's been asked to do as a goalkeeper. But I mean, I'm looking at it now. It says a remarkable life and death story of Richmond Roose, and it is. And I after read this first, buy and read this first. But it is a fantastic read, because the character of the fella and just what he got up to, and the fact he was supposed to be amateur, and just it's an intriguing read.
Yeah, so the book you mentioned there, if it can't be picked up on, or for the audio listeners, it's Lost in France by Spencer Vines, and it is a fascinating read. Just some of the notes I've got on Lee Roose. He was a school friend of H.G. Wells, who was the author of War of the Worlds. He sat on the crossbar once during a...
He did, so he actually made an error on his Everton debut away. I think it was at Sunderland. And before the next game, he spent 15 minutes just apologising to all the Everton fans behind his goal, just shaking hands, which endeared him to them straight away. Then he kept a clean sheet, and he was apparently really bored during part of the game, and he just got up and sat on top of the crossbar. So, yeah. Imagine if Jordan did that today.
No, I tried that.
He'd probably get away with it. So I think he's got the attitude. But one thing to note as well is that we're actually going to be doing a film on Lee Roose Heritage Society to bring his story to life and shine a light on him. He was lost. He's one of Everton's fallen soldiers. He was obviously, of course, lost in World War One.
Prince of Goalkeepers. His nickname was the Prince of
Goalkeepers.
Which is a lovely phrase, isn't it?
Fantastic way to
not bad to be called.
Played for Wales, did he? Played for Wales. Yeah. I just remember reading it and thinking, every page I turn, I thought,
something, yeah.
Grief, he's done this as well. He's done, you know what I mean?
He really was a star of the day, wasn't he?
And he didn't change his kits until they lost a game, and just shows like how the language vocabulary's changed over time, and football match reports as well. But there was a line from a very old match report that said he refused to change his knickers until they'd lost, and it meant his playing shorts. But I thought a bit of comedy value there,
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to the likes of Ted Sagar, you mentioned him before. I should say 497 games he played for Everton, 2 league titles, 1 FA Cup, and was known as the boss, wasn't he? A word on Ted, because he was such a legend.
Yeah, the boss, just really commanding. Told his back line exactly where they needed to be all of the time. Bert Troutman, who was the Man City goalkeeper a little bit later down the line in the 50s, who German prisoner of war, broke his neck in the cup final. He cited Ted as an early goalkeeping hero, really, because he had this really kind of brave style of just diving head and hands first at the onrushing forwards' feet.
Away we go again. Sager makes a perfect leap and a clearance in spite of opposition. City's fullback clears to the right wing, where Toseland passes back to his partner, and there's a lovely lob into the middle where Sager makes another perfect catch. Confident, clean and convincing. Now Sager is thumping one-handed to make sure the ball doesn't go into danger. And a pass back by Tommy White to his goalkeeper for safety's sake.
First number 1 goalkeeper at Wembley, because in the 30s, in the cup final, Everton Man City was the first cup final to have players wearing numbers on the shirts in the cup final. only one number one goalie that day because Everton were 1-11 and Man City 12-22. So he is the original Wembley number one goalkeeper. Which is
the first number one, another one of Everton's illustrious list of firsts, I think. I'm conscious of time, to be honest. I want to go through this chapter by chapter. I'd love to name absolutely everyone. Someone that we can't ignore for sure is Gordon West. A fan favourite even to this day, I think, for many people who watched him.
United made the first showing, but West put paid to their chances. United tried again. Charlton set up another offensive. Danger men Best and Law were ready for action. Best pushed the ball out to the wing, and Law collected a terrific centre, which West only just finger-tipped away. Charlton with a corner. The pressure was off Everton again. It was their chance to turn the screw, and cup-tie tension was evident. Styles had a lecture from the ref. But the one and only goal of the match was Everton's. Joe Royle had netted in the 78th minute. He'd maintained his scoring record in every round. United fought back desperately, but they couldn't penetrate before West pounced to make it safe. Time had run out for United. Everton were through to meet Manchester City in the semi-finals.
Another incredible list of accolades, winning the league title in 63, the FA Cup in 66, another title in 70. Only won 3 caps for England, though. Seems crazy, doesn't it, for such an iconic
Probably
goal.
shows you the quality of goalkeeper that was around as well, doesn't it, in terms of who he was competing with as well at that time. But my father-in-law was an Evertonian, and Westy was his favourite. We say about Westy, he always said he had these massive hands and he could throw the ball a country mile, and when he'd come out and take a towering cross and then deliver it to the halfway line with a throw, it's funny, like we were saying about Jordan, about instances, about situations in games, about memories you've got, about things that stay imprinting on your mind even 50, 60, 70 years later, and it's just that's football, isn't it? Then that's what you want to see when you're players, and Gordon West quite rightly is up there as one of the greats.
Absolutely, and I think I read recently. I was doing a film with Dr. David France, and we were talking about the memorabilia collection that we have at Everton, and we were going through the minutes, which is a phenomenal collection of minutes. Or everything every decision the club had ever made, going back all the way to the beginning. Basically, it is staggering. One thing I was amazed by is that the club actually tried to sign Gordon Banks and failed, and that was when Westy came in. So how different things could have been there. You talk about obviously the competition that they had, but I think we made the right decision in the end, don't you? Maybe it was a positive thing that initial signing.
Proper Everton legend.
And I think at the same era, it's also worth mentioning, of course, he was in the same team with Andy Rankin.
Yeah.
Another of Everton's
firsts. So Andy Rankin, first goalkeeper to save a penalty in a European Cup game in 1970.
Wieder den Ausgleich erzielen kann, und dann ging es weiter mit dem Elfmeterschießen. Ist das möglich?
Bit unfair on him in a way, but he's similar age to Gordon West, so only one goalkeeper can play, can't they? If you've got 2 excellent goalkeepers, one of them's a youngster, one of them's an experienced veteran, you see the youngster eventually taking the place of the veteran, don't you? But if they're both, I think there's only about 18 months between them, so the person in charge of the shirt is in charge of the shirt, aren't they?
Yeah. He's hard to unseat as well, isn't he?
Yeah, but Andy Rankin was known as the best reserve keeper in Britain in the 60s, and he did have a few spells. Gordon West, a couple of injuries, and did have a loss of form. Kind of maybe 18 months, 2 years into his Everton career, and Rankin came in, did brilliantly himself. Then he got injured, and Gordon West got back in the side, and then just went all the way. Then
And he's
difficult to get back
in
in the
still,
team.
He's still the last Scouser to play in goal as well,
Yeah.
isn't he?
Oh, right.
So there's
Yeah.
been quite a gap without one of those, but that's another little accolade of his. Now, I mentioned time. The problem we've got here is that next up on the list is a certain bin man. Neville Southall, who we
Do a separate episode sometime.
Yes, you took the words right out of my mouth. I feel like at one point we'll have to get you back in and we'll talk about Neville Southall at length. Keeping it brief, I'm not even going to ask you a question. Just give us your words on the great Neville Southall.
I'll just extend one of the words you just used there. You said great. I'll say greatest. Just the greatest goalkeeper of all time. Just a complete one-off. Just made saves. I don't think we realised how good he was until he'd finished. And the main reason for that is that he made saves week in, week out that not many other keepers could make, if any other keeper could make. And it just became the standard. It just became the norm. Not just during the glory years. I actually think his best period in goal for Everton was in Colin Harvey's time in charge, 87 to 90. I remember a game at Coventry, beginning of 88, 89, and he made 3 saves in that game, which just a bit like the Jordan game.
Yeah.
He was just doing that regularly, frequently.
Still David Smith. Over he goes, and that's a penalty. Brian Kilcline, who likes to thump his penalties. He's done so, and it's a fantastic stop by Neville Southall. Jim's corner. Regis jumping. That'll come out to Sedgley. Bannister! Another marvellous save from Southall. Poynton. That's a good ball. And here's the other fullback, McDonald. And Cotty stolen free on the far side. There he is, Tony Cotty. Everton are in front. Borrows. Downs. Oh! Another marvellous save.
A couple of saves from John Barnes at Anfield that season and the season after as well, and it just became the norm.
Brilliant save by Southall. What a fabulous footballing moment that was. I think everybody in this 44,000 crowd was, or at least the Liverpool section, was about to scream goal. Played in nicely there by Aldridge, well met by Barnes. A magnificent piece of goalkeeping by Southall.
Mark Falco's header somehow kept out by Neville Southall. A save that brought Ray Clements to his knees at the other end in frustration, and then a show of admiration.
If I could just mention that save that Neville pulled off a few minutes ago, that is what wins your league championships. It's not beating Manchester United 5-0 at Goodison, which we did early in the season. It's coming here and Neville pulling off a save like that with 2 minutes to go.
People talk about the Falco save, Matt Falco save in '85, because it was on the way to us win the league, and it's seen as an important save. But I can list about 100 saves that were harder to make than that one, which Neville Southall made, which kind of get forgotten about a little bit as well, because we weren't going for the league titles, we weren't going for the cups at that time, and that's another reason why I wanted to include those. Not just the Emi Varadi save, not just the Matt Falco save, but just lots and lots and lots of brilliant stuff. And worked with your dad, didn't he? And
I did.
You got to see him.
86. Yeah, actually that's my dad's time, and he came in 85 and 87. We went to the cup final in '86, which was the first Merseyside Cup final. So, and I was very, very fortunate. I got to come to Belfield, as it was where he trained, and watched him train. And,
wow.
and I'm on record as saying it just. When you see it on the television, you see someone live, and you have that appreciation in 90 minutes. When you see it day in, day out, and I say, I reference Jordan as well, is that's the work that people don't see. That's the bedrock of not only the talent, but the greatness that they bring to the position. And Neville was just incredible. I remember just like Adrian Heath and Sharpie, and Kevin Sheedy's left foot, and thinking, oh my word, that's going in the top corner, and he'd come out of nowhere, tip it over the bar, and he'd just like incredible. And I was the ball boy. I had to go and get the balls, and I remember my dad just coming back and just saying, wow, what this fella, you know what I mean? But it's just his drive. his work ethic, his ability, to work at his craft day in, day out. You know what I mean? And again, I see similarities between him and Jordan in terms of that mindset, that work ethic, that wanting to make that save. And what a pleasure for me, and what an honour for me to be able to, from a young age, to see somebody working that level and thinking, if you want to give yourself a career, that's what you need to do.
It's an incredible honour, that, isn't it, to see him in training. It must have been absolutely fantastic to watch. Neville remains the last Everton goalkeeper to lift the trophy, fortunately, unless you count the Brotherhood Cup against Everton in Chile. Those who followed him never really, as far as you're into my lifetime now, from a young age, I never really had an affinity with a goalkeeper myself. Obviously, Nigel Martin was prolific for England at the time. Paul Gerrard kind of didn't quite fill the boots, or fill the gloves, I should say.
I do feel a little bit sorry for Paul Gerrard, because prior to coming to Everton, he'd done really well at Oldham. He got himself in the England under-21s team. Joe Royal had gone back to Oldham to sign him, so I don't think you ever go back to a club and sign a dud, do you? Or someone who you think is going to be a dud. You spent £1 million on him, obviously rated him, but I genuinely believe that. Oh, sorry. I genuinely believe that
Thanks.
because he was following Neville Southall, and because he'd have been growing up when Neville Southall was the best goalkeeper on the planet, I just think it was too big a gig for him, and a couple of mistakes and his confidence was shattered, really. But I do feel a little bit sorry for Paul Gerrard, because he must have had something about him to being in the England under-21 team to start with, and for your former manager to go back and go and sign you, he must have done all right for him, mustn't he? Yeah.
For sure.
Like Neville himself in the early 80s, though, Gerrard was signed with a view to the future. Big Nev, still one of the most committed trainers at the club, was given the opportunity to join Wolves. Contractually, it was his prerogative to sort out the final phase of a glorious career, whether it be at Molineux or wherever. But he opted to stay, knowing that in Gerrard he faced the stiffest competition for a first-team place since becoming established way back in the early 80s.
In training, what have you found his qualities to be?
It's a good laugh for the start. Which is, sense of humour is the main thing with being a goalkeeper. He's got a good sense of humour, so he's going to need it if he stays here a long time. Because he's bound to go through lean times as well as fantastic times, so he's going to need a sense of humour. But his handling's good, his position is good. He's still basically really a kid, in goalkeeping terms. So he's got another 7 to 9 years to progress to be the finished article. So he's got a lot of time yet.
I think you're going to say another 7 to 9 years before he takes my place.
No, I don't decide them things, mate.
Obviously, a tough man to follow, but I think the one guy that did kind of lend himself into my favours, at least, was Tim Howard, another man who's up in the hundreds of appearances for the club. He kind of fell out of favour at Manchester United, didn't he? He struggled with Alex Ferguson, and I think he really found a home with Everton. Known as America's Secretary of Defence, which I always liked as well. Another record breaker in World Cups, the most saves in a World Cup game. I believe it was 15, wasn't it, against Belgium? Yeah. A game that they still lost, but I
think he found a home at Everton as well. And in Moisey, whenever he'd made a mistake at Man United, he was taken out of the team, and he made some bad mistakes for Everton, but Moisey kind of allowed him to make those mistakes because he knew that he had this strong character as well. And I don't know if you make a mistake and then you're taken out of the side every time, then it's very hard to get a flow going, and it can't be great for your confidence as well. So I think he could relax a little bit at Everton and think, even if I do make the odd mistake, I'm going to bounce back. And he did bounce back. He made some really, really top saves for us. Yeah, he played 10 years, didn't he? 10 years at Everton. So
absolutely. Right. He was fondly, I think he'll fondly be remembered.
I think, a nod to David Moyes there, because I think managers, coaches, probably fans expect goalkeepers to be perfect. Because if you're not perfect, you concede, or you lend you open that door. And I think when that does happen, if the mistake happens, I think David Moyes looks at the bigger picture. Looks at the person, looks at the performance over a certain number of times, and says, "No, listen, that's a one-off. Go again." Put her arm around his shoulder and say, "Listen, don't do it again." But I'm sticking by you, and I think that that lends an ease and a belief that you don't have to, you're not going out on edge. You're just going out there to perform. And if you do make a mistake, that happens. You know what I mean? So I think that little context has to be put in there when you know your manager's got your back.
Yeah.
And it's going to, as long as you're performing on a regular basis, that is such a comfort for a goalkeeper.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just to finish off with Tim Howard, there's of course the FA Cup final, which we just missed out on in 2009.
Yeah.
2009 against Chelsea. The semi-final was against Manchester United, and he was instrumental in the penalty shootout win. I believe he cried in the Wembley dressing room after the game, having, quote, slain the dragon. We don't quite know who the dragon was, but whether you leave it up to the public who that could be, perhaps at Manchester United. And of course, because you've mentioned his affinity with David Moyes there, I think I'll just quote Tim Howard, where he says, if Manchester United are the biggest club in the world, then
Everton, without doubt, is the greatest. Everton is one of the best things that ever happened to me in my life. I am so very proud to be an Evertonian and what that means and how much of a fabric of the club that I am. David Moyes is the greatest manager I ever played for. I stand before you today to tell you that if he asked me to run through the gates of hell 7 days a week, I'd smash through them every single day, because that's how great he was. He instilled in me leadership, accountability, responsibility, taught me to be mature. I grew up into the person that I always hoped I'd be, playing for David Moyes.
So it just gives you an idea of how important a manager is to a goalkeeper as well.
He said that whilst I was writing the book.
Oh, really?
As soon as I heard it, I thought, that's my own.
That's going in.
For the Tim Howard chapter.
Perfect. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. Now, as we sit here today, we are preparing to go and witness the first ever women play at Hill Dickinson Stadium. We should draw attention to the fact that Jordan Pickford isn't Everton's only England number one in recent years. Of course, chapter 14 in your book covers all of the women to have played in goal for the Blues. The most standout name being that of Rachel Brown-Finnis. There's stars across the whole club, isn't there? Can you just give us an idea, an insight into her career?
Yeah, I was really lucky enough to speak to her on a few occasions. Crazy thing is as well that she's from the northwest. I'm from East Yorkshire, kind of similar in age. Back in the early to mid 90s, if we wanted to do any kind of goalkeeping training and goalkeeping schools, both ended up in Hertfordshire on a Bob Wilson residential keeper school. So just bonkers that we were both travelling as far as we did to get specialised keeper training, because back then it wasn't a thing, or it wasn't a thing that everybody could access. But no, she was a really, really good interview. Played for England, played for Liverpool to start with.
I wasn't going to mention. I'll cut that bit.
Let's keep it clean.
Went over to America, came back, and at that point was when she signed for Everton. But I really like that chapter because it highlights all of the challenges that a lot of the women have had to face, when trying to make their way in the game, really, and none more so than Rachel Brown-Finnis.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the women's it's such a young, not to say young sport, but obviously a young branch of football. Not being paid until quite recently. They weren't professional players until kind of the last 10, 15 years even.
Well, one of Rachel's understudies, Nick Hobbs, she'd come over from Doncaster Bells, I think it was, and she was a firefighter, and she had to pay her colleagues to cover her shifts. So when she'd come to Everton because Rachel Brown had got injured, and then when Rachel was fit again, she didn't want to hang around and sit on the bench, because you wouldn't want to, would you? If you are having to get people to cover your shifts, if you're having to pay people to cover your shifts, then you're going to want to play football, aren't you? So she was travelling 2-3 hours a time. Yeah, and I think that chapter really, for me, emphasises a lot of the struggles.
That shows the love of the game.
It does. It really does.
I love goalkeeping.
Yeah, absolutely. The dedication to go through what she did.
Yeah, and the sacrifice that you need, and the way she's now part of the media, and she came to Finch Farm. She was doing a masterclass series on goalkeeping, and she had an iPad, and I think it was the Chelsea save, and I think it was a save against Nunes at Goodison, where Jordan tipped onto the bar, and she went into it in detail, and then was asking him, and it was a brilliant interaction. It was a fantastically well put together piece, but it showed her passion, her insight, and as a pioneer, really, one of the leaders in women's football that has actually brought it to where we are now, overlooking Hill Dickinson Stadium, when they're playing their first game here tonight.
Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful.
She was saying how the size of the female keepers as well, because there's obviously a huge size difference between the men and the women, and how there'd be such a focus on her having to have really quick feet to get across a goal line, because obviously she and the rest of the women wouldn't have that reach, so she'd have to get a few more steps in before pushing off into the dive. So a lot of her training was about really being quick around the goal.
Getting around the goal.
I'll just say one thing, I'll touch on that, bravery.
Yep.
The bravery is incredible. I took Kirsty Lavelle for a week pre-season when I was coaching at Everton, and when you asked her to go into the boots or whatever, like, she was first in, and last out. It was like the bravery as well. It's like when the decision's made, it's not a second thought, bang, ball, and that's it. That's all I see, and that's all I'm going to get. And it was brilliant to see that, and just to see the level of performance again. We talked about, as a goalkeeper, it doesn't matter, if you're a man, if you're a woman, whatever you are. You have to have a decision making. You have to have a level of intelligence to think, this is my ball to go and get, and it doesn't matter what it is. Your brain's got to make that decision. And when Kirsty was in that week, we filmed everything, went back and we analysed everything, and her stand-up performance. And you talked to a lot, Paul, don't you? Yep. She's was up there as well. Absolutely fantastic.
Brilliant.
Winning the FA Cup, definitely, winning League Cups, but winning the FA Cup was definitely a massive highlight for me. Playing Champions League football, I do feel like I've achieved a lot in women's football in general, but here at Everton, we've won silverware, which has been fantastic, and really kind of what you play football for is to try and win things. So I've been part of an Everton team that have, in highs and in lows, where the landscape of women's football has completely changed in the 11 years I've been here at the club.
So to finish the book, you've put a fantastic appendix together. Credit to you. It's the statistics in there are unbelievable. It really is, as we said earlier, a comprehensive list of every Goodison goalkeeper, all of their the games and their accolades as well. But as well as that, you've got a really nice piece on the fans and Evertonians of note who've given you their favourite goalkeeping stories. Is there any that stand out to you from the people you've asked that stand to mind?
My two favourite bits in the book are the bits that I didn't write. So the foreword from Alan, I often just read that. I'm just so sad. I'm just like, oh, this is so good. This is so good. I wish there was a full book like this. And the final chapter, where I just wrote the opening paragraph, and then it was like, hand over to everyone else. Anyone who wants to get in touch with a goalkeeping memory of, be it a save, be it performance, be it an error at Goodison, be it from an Everton goalkeeper or an opposing goalkeeper. And I just wanted to collect them all together. It sounds a bit haughty, doesn't it? But it feels like a bit like an anthology, really. I love some of the shorter ones. Someone on Twitter got in touch and told me that in a really quiet game, Gordon West hadn't touched the ball, and someone popped out of the stands and made him a cup of tea and handed him a cup of tea. So there's all the ones with there's Jordan save. Dr. David France wrote about Jordan save against Bournemouth in that game in injury time, where had that gone in, then we'd have gone down. So there's the serious stuff, but there's some really lovely, light-hearted moments as well. I did the Goodison sleep out this time last year, right. And just got speaking to a guy who I could see how much it was hurting him seeing Goodison come to an end. an older guy, and he had tears in his eyes, and it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I just got talking to him, and I said, "Have you got any memories?" And he started reeling off all of these players. I thought, "Got any goalkeeping memories?" And
get the notepad out.
Yeah. And he was telling me that he used to play with Neville at Llandudno Swifts, and started talking about Gordon West. But for all of that, he said that the best save he'd seen at Goodison was the Tim Howard one against Southampton. So quite a modern one. Yeah,
claws it back
out. Yeah. So yeah, it was good. And one the day we signed Andrzej Kanchelskis, actually, from Manchester United in '95, and Ian Maher, he's a guy who's given me a paragraph. He said he was outside Goodison, and with Bert Harris, a goalkeeper from the 50s.
Wow.
And just heard this, Andre's good, but he wouldn't have been able to score past you, Bert. And I just thought that was a really, really lovely moment. So yeah, some nice memories, some good bits in there. Yeah.
Brilliant. It's a really nice Goodison Road moment, that is.
Yeah.
You can almost hear it now.
Yeah.
The one that I picked out, and I believe, so many other people will as well, was mentioned by the chairman of our society, Ken Rogers, and he recalls the speech that Gordon West made with Neville Southall in the room, and all the debates have always gone on about who was the greatest. Westy said himself, well, Neville, how about we say that I was the best in black and white, and you're the best in colour.
Brilliant.
I love that one.
Neville, and Jordan's the best in HD, so we can have him in there now, can't we?
and there's the clip. Fantastic. Honestly, thank you so much for being with us today, guys. I really appreciate the time that you've taken. Just before we go and watch the women play, I just wanted to highlight one more quote. We mentioned Richmond Roose earlier, and he was an after-dinner speaker after his career in football, and he's quoted as referring to a proverb. He says, "There is a proverb which says, before you go to war, you say a prayer. Before going to sea, you say 2 prayers. Before marrying, you say 3 prayers. And one might add, before deciding to become a goalkeeper, you say 4 prayers." As he's the Aunt Sally.
Brilliant.
My favourite. So there you go. Yeah. The Glovesmen of Goodison, A History of Everton's Goalkeepers by Paul Owens. Where's it available to buy?
In all good bookstores and on Amazon. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So, thank you.
So
Thanks
Paul,
ever so much for having us on.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed that one, guys. Like I said, fantastic book, fantastic content. The stuff that's in there, it's such a fantastic overview of every Everton goalkeeper from the very, very beginning up to the present day, including all of the women's players and the women's goalkeepers and the statistics at the back. It's just everything. It's got everything. Some wonderful stories. Well worth a buy. You can buy it in Waterstones and Amazon. All good bookstores, as we always say. And just going back to the point on Lee Roose as well. He was such a character, a fantastic man in the early 1900s. And he's somebody that we want to do a film on as well. So hopefully in the next few weeks to months, probably by Remembrance Sunday, I would suggest, we're gonna do a little feature on Lee Roose and make sure his story gets told. So yeah, until next time, guys. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave us some comments. I'm sure you've got loads of stories yourselves. So I'd love to hear them. All the best. Till next time. And before we do go off and watch the girls, I just wanted to end on one more quote. And now I've lost it. That's good, isn't it? I'm going to do that again. I got all the way to the end and I haven't got it.
Do you want the paper version?
I do.
Is it in this book?
It's in the book. It's in the book. I'd highlighted it as well, and it's disappeared. I was just scanning that. I've absolutely messed that up massively, haven't I? Yes, I do want it in the book. Where are we?
There's one interesting one. I made my international debut against Wales, against Neville, Southall. And the first time the ball came to me, Roy Keane passed it back to me. And I must have been so full of adrenaline that I smashed the ball from box to box, and he brought it down on his chest, and he put his hands above his head, and he went like that. I thought it was cool, that, yeah.
Brilliant.
That'd do me.
I'll try that again. So thank you so much for being with us today, guys. I really appreciate you taking the time out of match day. So.